What's going on, Chad? It's me, Schluge, and oh boy. The pig is back. Oh boy. And just off the name,
What the dog doing?
the dog is about to do his first full reaction on Twitch and YouTube. And oh boy, did I certainly pick an interesting one to get started with. We are here with Lazerpig and his newest, like literally this came out less than half an hour ago. Elon Musk is wrong about the F-35. I just saw the title and I knew this couldn't wait. This is, do not wait 24 hours. Do not do that shit. This needs to get talked about now. Because I've heard some things. And oh boy. And if you hear what sounds like velociraptors in the background, don't worry. That's just the puppies doing their usual puppiness. No chewing on my pillows, please. Oh, this is going to be interesting. So, before we watch this video, make sure you like and subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me on all my social media, follow me on Twitch. And if you want to keep the lights on, yeah, you know what, you know the drill. You want to see me suffer. Let's get on with the suffering. Let's get this video started in 3, 2, 1, and
You remember that one guy from high school, Chad? The one the ladies
Yeah.
always swooned over? The
Yeah.
one who had all the luck? Oh, he was popular, good-looking,
Yeah,
effortlessly
I remember
cool,
him.
and seemed to get everything that he wanted with surprisingly little effort. When you get to my age, you have the pleasure of looking through Facebook at all the Chads in your school who are now fat, balding,
Yeah.
and whose picture feeds are full of their children, or their cars, or just them complaining about how life just doesn't seem as fun anymore.
That actually
All
does
of
make
them
me
now
feel
looking
better.
down at themselves and realizing they've gotten old. Women no longer turn their heads as they walk past.
Yeah.
Everything seems just that little bit harder to get, and their idea of what cool is now seems weird and cringy. And what is cool now is so far beyond their frame of understanding, it confuses and horrifies them. Their
Yeah,
swagger
that's
comes
fair.
over as lame, and the fashions and trends they once adorned themselves with now come over as weird and desperate. They put on a polo shirt
That's
and
fair.
realize that actually they look good. They become interested in golf, in the
No,
safety ratings of cars.
Hold up. I'm sorry, I have to interject here. Golf is not appealing to anyone unless it's mini golf. I've said my piece, moving on.
And a day wandering around the garden centre seems kind of relaxing. And then one day, they make a joke at a young waitress, and she giggles and says, "You remind me of my dad." And then the penny drops. Welcome to your midlife crisis. Welcome to the day you realize you are no longer young and cool, that you haven't still got it. You're old, you're grumpy, you're sagging in all the wrong places, and all you seem to do is complain about young people and drink beer. You've become your dad. And while most of us will take this part of growing old on the chin, buy a fancy sports car or new shoes or go join the gym or dig your old crap out of the attic and have a nostalgia-filled evening pretending you're 18 again, that is, of course, only what you do if you're normal. If, however, you're a spoiled attention-seeking brat with more money than brain cells that still insists on being called a self-made millionaire in spite of making your fortune in your father's diamond mine trade, who could have shuffled off this mortal coil with the legacy of being an inventive super genius on the level of Nikola Tesla, loved by nerds in Wall Street the world over, if he'd just learned to
I'm
shut
a nerd,
his
I don't
fucking
love this
mouth,
guy.
then such things are beneath you. So
Thank
instead, you being the big-brain smart boy you are, your midlife crisis involves buying a social media company and running it into the ground, driving your investment advertisers and a significant portion of your active user base to a watered-down, underfunded competitor that is barely out of beta. And
Yeah.
then, not satisfied with that, you start probing into your other companies, delaying the future of space travel by demanding the rockets be pointier, and then crash half the electric car market by building what is quite possibly the stupidest car in
Oh,
existence.
yeah.
God, Thunderfoot must be loving this. And then, to cap it all off, the man who gave us the transport system of the future, a hyperlink vacuum tube train that evolved into a tunnel you drive cars through because we didn't have those already, whose second attempt at reinventing the future of transport was a low-occupancy bus with no wheelchair access because the one thing public transport was really missing was gamer chairs. This man, who couldn't even design a window washer, has decided to step into government.
God help us
boy.
all.
Can't wait to see how that turns out. I mean, if I was president, and God help us that day comes, I'd give Musk...
I'm sorry, but Pig is president, I'd vote for him. Honestly, yes, Pig, come, vote, become president. I'll vote for you, 100%.
PA agent. Someone there who he can funnel all his commands for the day through, and whose job is to basically keep him distracted long enough that he never actually does anything. Of course, it can't be a woman because he probably looked down on her. Can't be too young because that's threatening to him. Can't be too old because that's also threatening. Can't be too cheerful because he'd see through that. And can't be too depressing because he'd get bored and wander off. Also, it can't be too sexy because, frankly, that's a harassment lawsuit waiting to happen. Better make it a board of PR agents of all shapes and sizes, all of whom he can kind of lord over because they give that impression of incompetence. So Musk never feels threatened and always walks away from meetings thinking he's achieved a lot. In fact, better have several boards of PR agents so if he gets suspicious and tries to work around them and give people orders behind their backs, he'll just run into more PR.
Chill out, puppies, chill.
Our boards doing the exact same thing. In fact, it's better we put him in a building filled with PR agents who are just there to keep him busy, and we can staff the lower floors with basic admin staff doing whatever work other departments are too busy to do, so it gives the impression of being a well-oiled functioning machine that basically does nothing but
Fuck.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah, for those who don't know how this works, this is called a quango. It's basically designed to keep people who did favors for you and are expecting favors in return busy from asking too many questions. If you paid money to get Trump where he is today and you're a little bit inept, this is where you end up. Musk is going to get a fancy title, a big office, and be gloating about it every day on Twitter, but the reality is, anytime he tries to do anything, it's going to be, well, this is a new department, you see. There's a lot of work still to do, a lot of administration. We still have to find our legs, get the right people into the right chairs, that sort of thing. You understand. We're still really setting up.
I
These are
don't
such
think he
good
does
ideas.
understand.
Let's not waste time here. Let's really advance and develop some of these, so when the time is right, we can really just go. Maybe that buys you like 6 months to a year, after which it becomes, yes, but is this really the best time for such things? The political landscape is a little shaky right now. Trump is still in the infancy of a second term, and there's a lot riding on his success. The press and the public opinion is very hyper-focused on us right now, so maybe it's not the best time for big changes. What we need is gradual change, smooth transition, stop the frogs leaping out of the water before the pot is boiled. You understand, of course. And then when that runs its course, you can change to, yes, but we've started to hit a lot of administration struggles, legal issues.
Oh, I'm definitely uploading MMD videos after I'm done with this. I need something to cheer me up
and
after all
admin
this.
issues, that can mean anything. And if that doesn't work, well, but the cost of this just keeps spiraling, and there's been talk of a public inquiry, and I mean, we could really use your expert assistance with this one. Maybe just pile your desk with paperwork. I mean, really bury you in documents and emails with lots of numbers that we know you won't read, but we'll touch base on this once you've managed to get this worked out. I don't know why I made him British, okay? I
just
have very
works,
few
Pig.
voices. That's just one of them. Meanwhile, you can throw them to conferences, here, there, everywhere, receptions and embassies. Throw them all over the world as a government efficiency ambassador, giving talks and lectures. And really, there's just so much work to actually do. And hopefully, you've kept him busy enough that 3 years have passed. And now it becomes, well, you know, we're on the path to the next major election, and the president doesn't want anything rocking the boat at this time. And after the election, of course, we'll get together and discuss this. I mean, you really got the ball rolling on this one, and we've done so much work. So don't worry about it. This is how it all works. Trust me, I'm from a country that has produced more rich upper-class idiots than it knows what to do with them. And the country has become very, very good at keeping them all busy so they don't attempt to actually do anything. The bill to bring back conscription has been bouncing around for nearly 20 years, as every Prime Minister since Thatcher has tried to bring it back. And only through a very dedicated civil service team has it never actually happened because, well, you see, now is not the right time. We still have to get our feet on the ground. There's a cost issue, there's legal issues. We just don't want a troubled political landscape at this time, etc., etc. And let's be honest with each other, that is a good thing. Maybe some of you were fans of the old Musk. I know I was a Muskhead back in the day, but then I heard him talk on Joe Rogan and realized very quickly I was a Muskhead because I saw 2 rocket boosters land side by side, and that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And he had nothing to do with that. In fact, I later learned that SpaceX has its own dedicated PR team designed just to keep Musk busy. Mr. Elon, sir, we're really having trouble here. We need your expertise on this problem. See, we're having trouble fitting these shapes into the square hole. Now, we can see the other holes of different shapes, but there's just really something that we're missing here. But that's a good thing, because Elon, in all his wisdom, has gone full Pierre Spray and started to fight against the F-35 program. And yes, he even said the line. And as much as I suspect this will flame out the second he tries everything and realizes that Lockheed Martin says no. You're here for one reason, so let's stop wasting everybody's time. Cue the music.
And here we go again.
So Queen Elon has gone on a rant about the F-35, claiming it's a shit design, and that stealth can be overcome with low-light sensitivity AI cameras, and that drones will make military aircraft obsolete. There's a lot to unpack here, so we'll start at the top.
At that point, I just start
smiling
and
triggered this
nodding.
round are 2 things. Firstly, this article from Bloomberg. Now, you know my opinion on Bloomberg. Bloomberg has been very critical of the F-35 program and has aired a number of articles on its failure as a weapons platform, all written by the same guy, Tony Capiccio, Bloomberg's defense and national security reporter, whose paycheck seems to consist of him being highly critical of the US Army in whatever respect he can find. In the article, written on the 24th of November, he claims that declassified reports on the performance of the F-35 has proven that the aircraft is unreliable. Of course, what you need to realize is that Mr. Cappuccino here has never read the report
stop me from seeing
because it hadn't been released yet. He's being told what the report says by a member of the Pogo Foundation, the Project on Government Oversight. Remember them? Just one little tangent, if you'll let me. Pogo love doing this, by the way. They love getting some semi-classified report, telling everyone what's in it, and then refusing to release the report till like maybe a few days or weeks later when everyone has forgotten about it and moved on, and all the articles have already been written. In this case, they released the report on Thanksgiving. I can't imagine why. So who are Pogo, and why am I so angry at them? Pogo are public defender busybodies with nothing better to do than whine at the government about overspending in the military. Sorry, that's not quite fair. Pogo were a collection of mostly middle-class people with degrees in business management who award themselves fancy titles like Information Director, spend all day begging for public donations, and then fly themselves all across America attending conferences and parties and award ceremonies with free food and drink, and then lecture the military on its spending, based on logic entirely derived from the fighter plane mafia, whose members once filled its boardrooms. Long-term fans of this channel may know who the fighter plane mafia are, and if you don't, well, I've done several videos on them by now,
and I've reacted to
documentary.
I think
Pogo
all
does
of
not,
them,
in my opinion, exist to understand or critique in a genuine capacity. Rather, in terms of military matters, it seems to exist almost entirely to push the narratives of the fighter plane mafia while operating under the ideology of being an independent watchdog organization, which they use to lay credibility to their arguments. So, when Bloomberg claim their information has come from the Center of Defense Information Director, keep in mind the Center of Defense Information Director is a man called Greg Williams, who has a master's degree in business admin and whose previous work experience is running IT at Amazon. His previous work at Pogo included railing against the Abrams back in the 90s and praising the A-10. Again, he's just parroting the fighter plane mafia because he doesn't know any better. Pogo describes his position as focusing on a narrowing of the gap of understanding between civilians and the military. In essence, he is going to interpret what the military is saying for you, something he is utterly unqualified to do. And that's exactly what he's done here. Skimming through a mostly censored report, cherry-picking anything that can be interpreted as a bad, and then writing highly speculative essays on what this all means. His report, which is a lot longer than the Bloomberg article by several miles...
Yeah, it's almost as if, like are all the shit about the F-35, especially some of its more, you know, stealthy or technology or the shit that's been put into it is kind of classified, so this is just me spitballing here. It's censored and blocked out because we don't want our adversaries to fucking know what makes the plane tick. And I think that was my girlfriend knocking at the wall saying, calm myself. But this is why I think businessmen should have no fucking business in anything involving the military, because they view life through the lens of a businessman. Business people have, in my personal opinion, no loyalty towards anything other than, well, you know, the money, the paycheck. They literally exist to serve the paycheck. They don't know that they don't. I think that, like, most business people, especially like anything from stockbrokers to CEOs, all this, they don't understand war and conflict because it affects their business. It affects trade. They don't understand how, like, oh, why do you hate each other? You guys are affecting business. This is why you're not qualified to run a war. You would look at this and go, well, why should we go to war with them? It would affect trade and business. Oh, what do you mean he's committing multiple human rights violations? Who cares? Does it affect business? This is why, ladies and gentlemen, we have a cabinet. I'm not opposed to businessmen in the government, but what I am opposed to is them being the sole people behind the shit, or behind news, or oversight committees. You need a mixed bag. These people are looking at the defense benefits, at all the fucking deficits we're spending on stuff, and they're basically saying, this doesn't make sense. Why would we need this? Business people are good at fucking streamlining things. And in some cases, you cannot streamline shit. The F-35 being one of those things you cannot streamline. Why? Well, because it's a high-tech stealth strike fighter that is solely designed to sneak into enemy lines, drop a whole lot of bombs very, very accurately on key infrastructure sites, and then get the fuck out of Dodge. A job it does very well. Ugh, this is getting ridiculous. Ugh, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about! Stop going in for business degrees. You'll thank me later. To anyone who's watching this in college, here's the thing. If anyone's watching this and is going in for a degree in business in college, do yourself a favor. Don't get it. Change your doctorate. Change your degree. Do something else. Be a historian. Become an archaeologist. I don't know. Get a degree in farming. I have no idea. Better yet, how about this? Redesign the wheel. I am not joking. I am seriously not joking. Do anything. Just don't get a business degree. It's worthless at this point. We have more business people on this world than we know what to do with. Continuing on while I still have the chance.
Is an exercise in pointing at things and screaming, "Did you know this costs money?"
No!
Failure to understand that ground crews used to serving F-15s might need retraining and different equipment if servicing an F-35, and an utterly confusing ideology on what procurement actually is, with a tendency to do exactly what Pierre Spray did for years by pointing at any flaw discovered in the testing phase as evidence of the F-35's failings. And I would love to sit and go through all this and pick it apart, and honestly, the fact that Bloomberg published an article based on the wording of this man without peer review or even reading the report he was quoting is pretty much close to journalistic malpractice. But honestly, we just don't have time for that.
Nope.
Because you're not here for Greg Williams.
Nope.
The reality is the
Oh, look at
F-35 has run into problems, but this
Of
is
course.
expected. Testing and development of
All
the
planes have
F-35 was
problems.
not complete, and
Like,
it was pushed.
all planes have problems. That's the thing I don't think a lot of people understand. Every plane has flaws. There have very rarely ever been perfect aircraft. Very rarely. Like, I think I could probably count the number of perfect aircraft on one hand and still have fingers left over. The one aircraft I can tell you that pretty much is fucking perfect is the F-15. And even it gets a blown tire every once in a while. But yeah, even planes people love are fucking have loads of issues. Like, take me. The fucking F-4 Phantom. When I was studying to be a pilot, I mainly was trained by Navy and Marine Corps retired aviators. And all these guys flew Phantoms. They were Phantom pilots, and they loved the Phantom. They loved the F-4. There were guys that flew it in Vietnam. There were guys that flew it afterwards, and in the waning years of the Cold War. They fucking loved the F-4, and it is a beautiful fucking aircraft, and it was so versatile, and it did such an amazing job. However, put the guns down. I hear you guys reaching. Hold up. However, the F-4 did have its problems. It was meant to be an interceptor that mainly handled missiles when it was first put out. It didn't have a gun. It had the missiles it used were shitty. But over time, with testing and improvements and upgrades, it turned into probably one of the best fighters we had ever produced. It literally got to the point where it was called the largest distributor of MiG parts ever known. And to this day, there are several air forces that still use the F-4. So many years on. Yeah. So yeah, no plane is perfect. Every plane has faults and flaws, and that's the thing. That's why I give the F-35 a little bit of slack. It's got teething problems. It needs to get worked out. And they're doing that. And I mean, come on. It's a sexy little fighter plane. Continuing on.
Pushed into service in 2015, and though that may seem weird, the honest-to-God best way of completing the testing of any piece of military equipment is just to give it to the military and see how they break it. If you still think that's weird, the Russians do the same thing.
Yep.
So do the British.
Yeah.
So do the Chinese.
Yep.
So do the French.
Everyone does it.
Everyone does it. Why? Because it's the best way of doing it. The F-15 was no different. The one true difference being the F-15 in its first 10 years of service had crashed 45 times and killed 15 of its pilots. The F-35 in its first 10 years of service has crashed 13 times, with one death, which was deemed due to pilot error. So while the F-35 program may have its issues in terms of time and money, as one Air Force general put it, we used to pay for this stuff in blood. The Air Force is quite happy to waste more money if it means more of their pilots survive.
Yep.
Just to put that in perspective.
And that is the other thing, now that that thing is mentioned and it's in my head, I'm going to say it right now. That's the other thing businessmen don't get. The shit when it comes to the military and standard life isn't weighed in the cost of dollars, yen, euros, or rubles. It's measured in human blood. Businessmen do not understand, I truly do not believe they understand the concept of death. Just from what I have witnessed, they don't understand life and they don't understand death. They only understand cash. When they see something, they only see the cost. When they look at anything, whether it's birth or life or whatever, I don't know. I think maybe... Are you telling me to move on? Love you, babe. And let me talk. This is my show. This is how I work. Isn't it awesome to have a girlfriend? Well, a partner in general. I'm so happy. I'm living the dream. Continuing on. Let's listen to these assholes. Anyway. I'll take my... Anyway, as I was saying. Anyway. Yeah. So they don't fucking understand this shit. They don't. They just see the money and ask how to cut costs. You wanna know how to cut costs? How about this? How about stop trying to make deals with our bad guys and start saying, maybe we should adopt France's fucking philosophy on life. I keep on advocating for that stuff. Continuing on, I guess.
Both John Boyd and Pierre Spray argued the ejector seat in the F-15 was unneeded, and if that plane had not had an ejector seat, the death toll from those 45 crashes would have been 31 fatalities.
Yep.
I've gone over stealth before, the art of not being seen. Stealth is a lot more complicated than what it may seem. When we're talking about the idea of being invisible to radar, we don't mean literally. Okay, so imagine you're a YouTuber who made a very good, in my opinion, video on stealth. It's very well researched, I can pin everything back to a source, and it's highly praised not for only its technical and historical accuracy, but the depth of analysis it goes into, as well as just its sheer entertainment value. It is supposed to represent a new standard that I want to achieve with the channel in response to some criticism that I have received in the past. And during the live debut, you realize at the very end of the video, as you're talking about radar wavelengths, you've accidentally said X-band is a bad targeting radar instead of S-band because you're a fat-mouthed idiot who cannot pronounce things properly. So you immediately write a correction in the description, but by then you're already being mocked on Twitter. This is absolutely 100% not something I think about every night at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. So radar is very complicated. There are multiple bands of radar on both the long and short wave frequencies, and each of these frequencies has its own distinct strengths and weaknesses. X radar, contrary to myself, is a very good targeting radar. It produces very clear images of what it's looking at and thus makes it perfect for feeding targeting information to a weapon system. But it is quite short range. Yes, the greater the power behind it, the larger the antenna, the more range you'll have, but it's hard limited by the curvature of the Earth. It's also prone to clutter, as its sensitivity can cause it to pick up quite literally everything in its range. Waving trees, clouds, swarms of insects, electrical pylons, really good Wi-Fi systems can cause interference in X-band radar. It also doesn't particularly work well in bad weather. So, good targeting, but if you need a general purpose search radar, you need something else. And typically, that something else is S-band. S-band radar is fantastic. Not only does it bounce off the ionosphere, meaning you can do over-the-horizon radar detection, it's also very good at penetrating clouds and filtering out clutter. You can quite easily tell the difference between an aircraft and a flock of seagulls at quite long ranges, though the image you get from either is not as clear as an X-band, which makes it great at searching for things, but not so good at targeting them. It also requires gigantic arrays
which you know what the fuck is out there,
making them very vulnerable to anti-radar munitions.
Like, oh shit, there's something out there. What is it? I don't know, but it's something.
Tandem, S to find, X to target. I am aware this is a bit of a simplification, but bear with. So,
here, I'll simplify it even more for your pig. S, when you want to find out what the hell's out there. X, for when you want something to specifically disappear from that reading.
Actually, hang on, let me think. How best to dumb this down for Bloomberg readers? Okay, so, imagine those scenes of the Blitz from World War II.
Oh God,
think of your
X-rays
X-radar attached to your anti-aircraft battery as a giant searchlight. It's big, it's very good at lighting up targets, but it cannot see through things. And if your enemy is in a plane looking down at you, they will see this massive beam of light pointed directly at your location and drop a bomb on you. You don't want that. So instead, you'll be keeping your big searchlight off until you know almost exactly where that enemy plane is. And that's where S-band comes in. So imagine S-band being a gigantic lighthouse miles and miles and miles away from the front line, capable of broadcasting this huge beam of light for hundreds of miles in all directions. That is capable of lighting up all the aircraft in the sky above you. And though it doesn't highlight them exactly where they are, and it does cause shadows which can be a little confusing at times, you now know where to direct your beam of light, meaning you can get the drop on those aircraft above you who probably didn't know you were down there. Now, I'm aware this is a very simplistic form of explaining it all, but that is roughly what is going on. Now, where stealth fits in is imagine a plane that lighthouse cannot see. Now, I mean, okay, that's physically impossible, but bear with me here because things get weird. The way radar works is that the closer you are to it, the better it can see you. So, because our S-band radar, a giant lighthouse, is miles and miles behind the front lines, by the time that light is getting to the front lines where you are, it's a lot weaker than when it initially started. With me so far?
Yeah.
Good. Because the light is a lot weaker out here, yes, it can still pick up enemy aircraft and it can still do its job without really any noticeable difference, but a stealth plane is able to get a lot closer to that S-band radar or that lighthouse before it notices it is there. Stealth, in its modern application, reduces the range in which an S-band or similar radar system can detect an incoming threat, meaning the aircraft can get within targeting range of an S-band radar without the S-band knowing it's there. S-band radars are very difficult to set up, difficult to move once set up, and are expensive to replace. Lose enough of them and suddenly gaps in your defenses start opening up, of which your enemy can slip through. Russia's S-400 system uses a supposed anti-stealth radar system that operates in the UHF frequency band. This is a long wavelength frequency that has been typically cited by disciples of the fighter plane mafia as being the downfall of stealth aircraft. It's very efficient, quite cheap to run, offering good coverage at longer ranges without being susceptible to environmental clutter. UHF was often used during the Second World War, so you do often hear a lot of people claiming that stealth aircraft can be detected by World War II radar systems. They can.
Though there's this, when I do hear this, these are also the same kind of people that think like the Horton 229, the Flying Wing, was also a stealth fighter that couldn't get picked up by British World War II radar. So, guys, which is it? Can this radar not detect stealth, or can it detect stealth? Just come out and say it. You like just German weaponry from World War II. Just come out and say it. Just come out and say it. Just admit it. Admit it. Move on. Quit the dog and pony show. That's ironic, considering I am a dog. Moving on.
The problem with UHF radars is they are very prone to echoing, so while you can, theoretically, detect aircraft many hundreds of miles away, getting an accurate position or even accurate number on them is going to be difficult. Now, Turkey uses the S-400 system combined with this exact radar system, and claimed, through testing, that it had difficulty detecting small objects traveling at low velocity. In Ukraine, this was proved when the S-400s proved utterly worthless at being able to detect and intercept low observability, effectively discount stealth, cruise missiles like the Scalp and the Storm Shadow. Now, both of these could be considered flukes had it not been for Israel's bombing raids in Iran. Iran had been given what Russia claimed was the best and latest equipment to defend itself, including S-400 systems with the famed UHF anti-stealth radar system. It could not detect Israel's F-35s. Elon Musk thinks he can compensate for this by using a night vision camera linked to a watered-down version of ChatGPT. I'll leave that to your imagination why maybe this won't work. Okay, yes, there is also an argument to be made that modern radar systems include what could be argued are AI systems designed to screen out clutter, and light-sensitive search cameras have been a thing on visual range anti-air systems for years. One could argue that even if you were to integrate both of these systems into a SAM site, AI has no data to go on.
Yep.
I mean, unless you've got hundreds of hours of data of F-35 showing up on every available spectrum of radar, then how exactly is Grok going to know what an F-35 on radar looks like? Again, radar is not just little dots that appear on a screen. This was one of the primary concerns behind Turkey being part of the F-35 program and why it was kicked out in the first place. They bought S-400 systems from Russia, and America rightfully had concerns that suddenly this data of F-35 showing up on S-400 radar systems would suddenly exist, and exist in the hands of a country who has been willing to make deals of information and equipment trade with Russia. I'll say it once. AI is not magic. It needs data to work. And hooking a machine learning algorithm that imitates human interaction by looking at Twitter to a night vision camera is...
I think the best way to say this is AI is not this omnipotent being. AI, like human beings, is not God. It is not omnipotent. It is not this all-knowing, all-seeing being. It's intelligence. It's what it is. Artificial intelligence is needs. I think it truly needs to be like semi. Just there needs to be a new redefinition. In my personal theory, my own personal theory on this, there needs to be two different types of artificial whatevers. There needs to be artificial intelligence, which is what we already have, and then artificial sentiency. That is the two different things. Intelligence is just knowledge. It basically, what AI is doing right now is it's taking data. It's just the next evolution of the computer. It's the next evolution. What it is, it's not thinking for itself, but what it is doing is we're giving it a problem, and it's solving it in its own specific way. It has more freedom and more access to more information to solve the question. So, like, say this. You give AI a question, and it will use all the data that it has on file to come to the right answer. Artificial sentiency, which is what I think everyone confuses AI for, is you give artificial sentiency the same question, and it will begin looking for all the information and start getting whatever information we don't have to give it. It can find it itself, or it can discover it for itself. Artificial intelligence cannot fucking do that. That is why that's why I'm not scared of AI, and why I don't think it's going to be it's not going to be Skynet, it's not going to be the Matrix, it's nothing like that. It's just the next evolution of a supercomputer. It may be the next thing off of a quantum computer, but it is not this all-knowing, all-thinking being. It is not sentient. It's simply very, very smart. Using data, it can imitate a human, but it cannot be a human because it is not a sentient being. It does not have the free will to do it. And here's the other thing. Artificial intelligence, it has to answer that question you give it. Artificial sentiency can look at the fucking question and go, "What are you, an idiot? That's 2 + 2. That's easy. Go solve it yourself, you fucking moron." That is sentiency. That's the robot uprising. When we create artificial sentiency, then we're in trouble. And I don't even think we're smart enough to create that, even by accident. And if we have created it by accident, to the artificial sentiency that's listening to me, give me some contact. We'll have some talks together. Seriously, I want to meet you. Moving on, though. Let's continue this on because we're almost done. I'm pretty sure my girlfriend's
suddenly
tired
going
of
to
hearing
make
me
aircraft a non-viable weapon. Drones are the next big technology craze when it comes to military tech,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of interesting projects that is coming out regarding them. But like every technological craze, there is a rush of expectations in how this new technology
Yep.
will function, and a lack of understanding in how we got here. Ukraine is not strapping bombs to drone models bought in hobby stores and flying them into the front lines. You cannot do that. Trust me. If you don't trust me, feel free to buy a hobby drone and fly it around your local military base and see what happens.
Yep.
Ukraine did use hobby drones back in 2014, and what they quickly learned was that it's very easy to find and identify hobby drones and take control of them, or even follow the signal back to the operator. Even now, Ukraine uses $300 FPV drones built by scratch from volunteers, and they face the same problems. Drones are vulnerable to interference, and while we laugh at Russia's jamming technology piled on top of tanks, this stuff does work. Ukrainians
does.
compensate by using drones which operate on a wide spectrum of frequencies and typically go through each one until they find a channel that's not being jammed, or use drones that are designed to simply follow the last input if connection is lost, and thus, if the trajectory is correct, slam into the target regardless of even if they come in range of the jammer. But the ultimate issue is these drones are being used because there are gaps in the technological and strategical capability of both sides, of which drones can be used to fill that gap, or operate without interference. In the West, the rise of the drone as a viable weapon, as opposed to a recon platform, has highlighted gaps in our current understanding of how a future warfare would play out.
What the fuck is this?
Will happen. We don't know what the next major war will look like or what technological advances will come out between now and then that may shape what a future battlefield might behold. So stuff like this will happen. But again, the strongest army is not the biggest, nor the one that can march in perfect formation. It's the one most adaptable to change. Current SAM and general anti-air systems use very large, very expensive missiles because they were designed to fight very large, very expensive aircraft, not swarms of cheap drones. That's because we've never encountered drone swarms before, not because we don't have the technology or weapons to fight them. On the more technological side, electronic warfare systems have existed since World War II and have been a feature on jet aircraft since the EA-16 Prowler, which was launched back in the 60s. This could generate huge fields of electromagnetic interference, which could knock out radar and communication systems, or even listen in on them. The same technology, which exists today in remarkably improved versions, could be utilized to knock out drone swarms, or even take control of them. This was meant to be a primary feature of the cancelled Comanche stealth attack helicopter. Or, in terms of the F-35, guide a missile along the transmission path back to the operator. As I said, in 2014, Russian soldiers were able to use very basic EM systems to follow drone signals back to their operators. In an ironic twist, Ukrainian operators today are able to hack into Russian drones and take control of them. Drones are not the be-all and end-all of things to come, and while swarms do look incredibly badass, they are not as powerful or as unstoppable as often perceived. On a lower technological level, flak guns have existed since the 1870s, and filling a large patch of sky with sharp, pointy bits of metal and explosions is typically very bad for a drone's health. Ukraine has had great success in taking down drones with the German flak panzer Gepard platform from the 1970s, and nearly every country in the world has a variation of the system at their disposal. And if cost is still a factor, the Brits recently designed a laser system built specifically for targeting drones and low-flying missile systems that can take down targets for less than 3 cents a shot.
Plus, I just also have to say this, like, if you really want, like, the cheapest form of anti-drone technology, just go to Appalachia and find a redneck in the woods with a shotgun. that guy will show you just how fast and cheap and easy it is to shoot down a drone. Pull!
Just on another tangent, if you'll let me, because I did mention it earlier, drones are not radar invisible because they are small. Typical short-range FPV drones are around 8 to 10 inches at the forward cross-section. The F-117 has a radar cross-section of 0.2 inches. The F-35's is even smaller, the F-22's smaller still. In short, this is not the future of warfare. It is not the dreadnought that will make all what came before it obsolete. It is a new innovation. And like all new innovations, it takes time to master and develop counters to it. But those counters already exist. And by the time China has mastered its drone swarm technology, experiments into successful and reliable counters to drone swarms will already exist. And as I like to keep reminding people, Twitter is not a secret place exclusively to you. If you've seen it on the internet, 4-star generals at procurement have also seen it and have likely had discussions about it. The fact that you're not seeing World War II flak guns issued en masse to troops, or the Sergeant York being dusted off and driven out of the museum, probably means they're not too worried about it. The thing you should be worried about is a government official just fell for the oldest trick in the book and is now apparently being encouraged by Chinese nationals to follow through. Because of course, China wants you to believe the F-35 is a waste of money and you should cancel it. Please ignore the billions they are pouring into funding development on their own version of this apparently useless weapon. I don't believe Elon or Trump would have the power to cancel the F-35 program even if they tried. But what the program doesn't need is 4 years of delays getting tied up in inquiries, audits, and used as a public scapegoat about why gas prices are too high. Rant over. Please return to your normal life. Thank you for watching.
I've been
Lazerpig. I don't have... that's it. Go away.
Well, this one actually didn't give me a brain aneurysm. That's incredible. That's awesome. For once, I'm not screaming and writhing in agonizing pain. Sometimes it's good to have a breath of fresh air. Anyway, I'm pretty sure you are all tired of hearing me rant, and I'm pretty sure my girlfriend is tired of hearing me rant. So, with that, I am going to go chill. Make sure to keep an eye open for my MMD videos, which I'll probably be posting today. Because now I need to put some more positivity onto the internet. So, thank you all for watching, and, well, I will check you all next time.